Hello, hope you're having a great day. It's so quiet and peaceful here. We had a minyan today. We have a minyan at 4 p.m. again. You know, as I've told you in the little last while, out of all the matriarchs and patriarchs, the ones that we choose their name and are named for is, of course, Jacob. We're called Bnei Yisrael, which is the name that Jacob was given by God when he changed his name from Yaakov to Israel. And throughout Jacob's life, we see the examples and the lessons and the messages that Jacob teaches us, explaining and understanding why it's specifically Jacob that is the one who we carry his name, Bnei Yisrael. And in the beginning of this week's Torah portion, there's two interesting things that happen. First of all, it says, Vayichi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim, Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years. And the commentaries tell us 17 means Tov, the best. And the question is, how could it be that Jacob's best years, the choicest of the patriarchs, takes place out of Israel and Egypt, in the promiscuity, in the lowest land of Egypt? The second thing that happens is that when Jacob is about to pass, he calls Joseph, and Joseph comes to visit him. Joseph wants Jacob to bless his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And he places them in a way that Manasseh, who's the older one, is to the right hand of Jacob, and Ephraim, who is the younger one, is to the left hand of Jacob. Because as we know in Judaism, the right hand connotes strength and positivity. And he wanted Manasseh, being the older one and the firstborn, to get that right hand. But Jacob, as the Torah tells us, Shikeh les yadav, he crosses his hands. And he puts the right hand on Ephraim and the left hand on Manasseh. And Joseph says, no, Dad, maybe you're older, maybe you're not seeing well, maybe you're confused, but Manasseh is the older one. Put your right hand on Manasseh. And Jacob tells Joseph, no, yes, I know that Manasseh is the older one. I know that too. But Ephraim will be yet greater than him, and therefore I put my right hand on Ephraim. And what really is happening here is the strength that Jacob, as the father who we carry his name, as the patriarch who suffered and struggled the most through trials and tribulations, from Esau, his brother, wanting to kill him, to Laban, his father-in-law, cheating him constantly for 22 years, to his son Joseph being sold into slavery, to hunger, and him having to go down to Egypt. Jacob knew that for survival of the Jewish people, we need to be able to see beyond the surface. Of course we see the reality. Of course we see what's in front of our eyes. But for us to be able to grow, and for us to be able to survive, a Jew has to see what's beneath the surface. Yes, Manasseh is older. And true, there's a greatness in being older. But also, Ephraim will be greater. Jacob didn't just see what was on the surface. He saw what was beneath it. And so was throughout his life. That's how he survived for 22 years under Laban. Laban, his father-in-law, cheated him with his wives and then with his cattle. But how did Jacob survive? Because he had that perspective. And the same thing is with Esau. And that's why Jacob was able to live his greatest years. 17 last years in Egypt. Because what Jacob teaches us more than all the other patriarchs is that in challenge, in crisis, in suffering, when you see beneath that, when you're able to see what's under the surface, what's beneath it, and what's not caught by the naked eye, you're able to make the best out of the greatest challenges and grow out of them. And that's what Jacob gave the gift to the Jewish people, and that's how we're called the Bnei Yisrael. Often I mention to you how year after year, when they take the poll of the happiest countries in the world, Israel always comes in the top 10. Last year was the top 5. And I marvel at the fact that Israel, a country under threat from so many countries, and every surrounding country wants to kill it, wants to annihilate it. Wherever we go, from as close as Egypt and Hamas, and in the West Bank and Gaza and Syria and Lebanon, and then you go on to the Houthis, and then you go on to Iraq and to Iran and to Libya. You go on and on. And yet, we're the happiest people. And I think what's gone on since October 7th, you think we would give up? The Jewish people would say, how could we go on if right here our neighbor, that we've been calling people to work and we've been helping them, these people are trying to kill us. What hope do we have? But we take the strength from Jacob to know that in these darkest hours after October 7th could be the opportunity to unleash and unlock the greatest blessings for the Jewish people. There is no doubt that we know that Israel was on course to a civil war right before October 7th. The worst thing for the Jewish people, that which has been always the worst, when we fight amongst ourselves. And now we have the opportunity in these darkest times, when we see so much pain, to see beneath the surface, beyond it, and to find the blessing and the strength to grow, to love each other, to strengthen each other, to be there for each other, to have the courage to fight, to have the courage to annihilate, to have the courage to tune out the world. Think about living in America and seeing what's going on at Harvard and at Princeton and at Yale and at MIT, seeing the anti-Semites all over, even in Congress. And yet, we take solace in knowing that our patriarch Jacob taught us the greatest gift. Yes, Menashe is the oldest, but Ephraim will be greater. Because because in the depth of my exile, God has made me multiply and grow stronger. Have a great day.